The poor alien woman begged the human man to marry her. The station floated silently in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and glass orbiting a blue gas giant. Ships of every shape and size came and went, their lights blinking against the black void. Inside, the station was alive with movement. Aliens of every species hustled along corridors, traded goods, repaired ships, or scurried to escape the notice of the more powerful. Sayla moved quietly through the crowded streets of the station's lowest level. Her small frame and pale green skin made her nearly invisible among the taller, stronger species. Her clothes were worn, patched many times over. She carried a basket full of metal scraps for the repair shops, hoping to earn just enough credits for her rent. She did not complain, though exhaustion weighed her down and her stomach ached from another skipped meal. Life had not been kind to Sayla. Her people had lost their homeworld decades ago, destroyed by war and neglect. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, living as refugees, beggars, or workers in the worst jobs. Sayla had grown up knowing only hardship. She learned to hide, to obey, and to work silently. But in her heart, she had a spark of hope, a faint belief that maybe, someday, she would not have to beg for life. She entered the workshop where she sold her scrap. The room was noisy, filled with the clanging of machines, the hiss of welding torches, and the murmur of alien voices. She approached the counter where the shopkeeper, a tall reptilian alien with sharp yellow eyes, glared at her. "Your scraps again, little one," he sneered. "Worthless as always," Sayla lowered her head. "They are all I could find. Maybe you can still use some?" The shopkeeper waved her off, tossing the scraps aside. "Get out, and hurry, others wait." Sayla's heart sank, but she forced a smile and stepped aside. She hated being treated like she was nothing, but she had learned long ago that anger would get her nowhere. She took her basket and continued walking, hoping the next shop would be kinder. As she rounded a corner, a loud crash echoed from the main corridor. A hover cart carrying containers of fuel had overturned, spilling bright green liquid across the floor. Aliens screamed and jumped back as sparks flew. Sayla froze for a moment, unsure what to do. Many would have walked away, others would have laughed. But instinct pushed her forward. She dashed toward the spill, slipping slightly on the smooth metal. With careful hands, she helped steady a fallen alien worker, pulling him to safety. A young human man standing nearby noticed her courage. He had been observing quietly, leaning against the wall as if he belonged to the station rather than just visiting. The human's name was Ethan. He was tall, with strong shoulders and calm, thoughtful eyes. His uniform marked him as an engineer, sent from Earth to maintain and repair ships across the galaxy. Humans were still rare here. Most aliens were curious or suspicious of them. But Ethan had something different, a calm confidence, a willingness to help others without asking for payment or respect. "Are you okay?" Sayla asked the human, her voice soft and cautious. She expected a warning or a scolding. Ethan smiled slightly. "I am fine." "But I think you need help." Sayla's heart skipped a beat. Few ever offered help freely. Most saw her as weak, unworthy of attention. She felt a warmth she had never known. I am used to it," she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No one should have to be used to danger like this." He crouched and helped her steady herself. "You have courage. That counts for more than anyone gives you credit for." Sayla blinked, stunned. No one had ever said such words to her. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt tight. Instead, she nodded and whispered, "Thank you." For the next few days, Sayla could not stop thinking about the human. He moved differently than the other aliens, calm, careful, and observant. He seemed to notice details that others ignored. The small acts of kindness he gave, without expecting anything in return, made her heart ache with hope and fear at the same time. But hope was dangerous in her life. Sayla's world had no room for it. A new danger loomed. A legal declaration had arrived from the station authorities. Refugees and weak aliens without protection were now subject to being sold into permanent labor. Sayla's species had no allies, no family, no one to claim her. If she did not find a legal protector, she would lose all freedom. She paced in her small room that night, her hands shaking. The idea came to her in a flash of desperation. There was one human, Ethan, who had shown her kindness. If she could ask him, beg him even to marry her, he could grant her protection under galactic law. But the thought terrified her. Humans were strong, independent, and rare. Why would one choose someone like her? The next day, Sayla watched Ethan work on a damaged shuttle in the station's docking bay. She took a deep breath and approached him. Her small heart pounded. "Ethan," she began, her voice trembling. I need to ask something. Please, please hear me." Ethan looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "Of course, what is it?" Sayla's words tumbled out fast and desperate. I have no protection. The laws here, they can sell me into slavery if I do not have someone to claim me. I beg you, will you marry me?" Ethan froze. Aliens nearby stopped to stare. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others whispered, shaking their heads at her audacity. Sayla lowered her eyes, embarrassed, but the desperation in her voice was real. She could not survive without someone willing to protect her. Ethan took a step closer. He did not laugh or scold. He looked at her seriously, considering her words. "Marry you?" he said slowly. "Do you understand what you are asking?" "Yes," Sayla said, a tear escaping her eye. I do not want to beg or steal. I only want to live, to be free. Please, you are kind, you understand." Ethan studied her carefully. He saw fear, but also strength, the quiet determination that had saved the alien worker at the fuel spill. He saw the spark of hope in her eyes that refused to die. He shook his head slowly. "This is not easy. The station, the council, others, they will not approve. It may bring trouble for both of us." "I do not care," Sayla said. "I cannot live like this any longer. Please, I will do anything. Just please say yes." Ethan's expression softened. He knew helping her could be dangerous, but something in him stirred, a desire to protect, to do the right thing. Humans were rare in the galaxy, yes, but they had strength not measured by weapons or wealth. It was the strength to see value where others saw nothing. "I will think about it," he said finally, "but you must understand this is not just a simple answer. If we do this, the galaxy will notice, and it may not like it." Sayla felt a mix of relief and fear. Even if he agreed, there were obstacles she had not imagined. Other aliens whispered behind her back. Some glared. Station officials had already begun to watch her. Yet for the first time in her life, she felt hope. A human had seen her, not as weak, not as worthless, but as a person. The day ended with Sayla standing on the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. She clutched her hands tightly. She had asked for help, a small step that could change her life forever. The stars twinkled above, cold and distant, but in her heart a small fire had begun. Ethan, meanwhile, returned to his quarters. He thought of Sayla, of her courage, and of the law that would force her into misery if no one acted. He knew his decision would not be simple, but he also knew that humans had a way of surprising the galaxy. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness could shake the stars themselves. And so the first spark of change was lit, and Sayla's life, once hopeless, teetered on the edge of a future she had never dared to imagine. But danger lingered. The council, the aliens who mocked her, and the harsh laws of the station waited patiently. One wrong move could ruin everything. Sayla shivered in the cold metal wind, her eyes fixed on the distant planets. She whispered to herself, "Please, let him say yes." And in the shadows, unseen, a group of aliens who thrived on the misery of the weak began to take notice of her. The game had begun. The space station never slept. Its corridors were alive with movement, chatter, and the hum of machines. But that day, a different kind of noise filled the lower levels, whispers, sharp gasps, and laughter that cut like knives. Word had spread quickly. An alien woman had asked a human to marry her. Sayla walked cautiously, her hands clenched tightly in front of her. She felt eyes on her everywhere she went. Some aliens stared in disbelief, others in amusement, and a few in contempt. She had never felt more vulnerable, yet despite the fear that gripped her, she held her head high. She had taken the first step, and there was no turning back. Ethan was in the station's engineering hall, repairing a shuttle that had returned from a long mission. Sparks flew from his tools, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and burned metal. He noticed the subtle changes around him, whispers from the alien workers, cautious glances from officials, and an unusual tension in the air. It did not take long for someone to approach him. A tall, narrow alien with pale blue skin and long, spindly limbs stepped forward. He had sharp eyes and a voice that cut through the hum of the workshop. "Human," he said, his tone icy, "do you know what the little alien whispered yesterday?" Ethan looked up, wiping his hands on a cloth. "I do," he said calmly. "And it is none of your business what she asked me." The alien's jaw tightened. "Do you know the implications? Marriage between a human and a refugee could destabilize order in this station. Your choice is unwise." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Do you mean unwise for her, or unwise for you?" The alien's lips pressed into a thin line, and he walked away without another word. Others were watching now, murmuring among themselves. Some aliens had already sent messages to the Galactic Council. Soon, officials would arrive to investigate, and whispers would become public scrutiny. Sayla did not know all this. She had stayed in her small room, pacing and wringing her hands. When she had made her plea, she had been desperate. Now the station seemed to be alive with tension, and she feared that she had made a terrible mistake. What if the human rejected her? Worse, what if the council punished her for daring to ask? But Ethan surprised her. The next day he approached her quietly, away from the crowded corridors. "Sayla," he said, his voice low so others could not hear, "I have thought about what you asked me. You know the risk, don't you?" Sayla nodded quickly, her heart racing. "Yes, I do. I cannot live like this. I will do anything. I just need a chance to survive." Ethan studied her carefully. His gaze was calm but intense, as if weighing the weight of the universe on his shoulders. "Marriage is not a small thing," he said. "It is a bond that changes lives, sometimes forever. Are you certain?" "I am certain," Sayla whispered. Her eyes glistened with tears she tried to hide. "I cannot ask anyone else. No one else would care. Please, I beg you." Ethan paused. He thought of the cruel laws that forced weak aliens into labor. He thought of her courage, of the dignity she carried despite being treated as worthless. And he thought of humanity, not the humans of politics or war, but the humans who chose to do what was right, even when it was difficult. "You have courage," he said finally. "I will help you, but we must be careful. Others will try to stop us." Sayla's heart leapt. She nodded quickly, almost unable to believe it. For the first time, she felt the possibility of safety, of a life where she was not at the mercy of cruel laws. But the station was not kind to those who broke expectations. News of their possible union spread quickly, reaching ears that were eager to maintain control. Within hours, a group of station officials arrived at Ethan's workshop. They were serious, formal, and clearly annoyed. "Human," one said, a tall alien in a silver uniform, "your intentions with Sayla have raised concerns. Such an alliance is unprecedented. We request a full report of your actions and reasons." Ethan stood straight, meeting their eyes without fear. "She is not asking for a favor. She is asking for protection. Under the law, I am able to provide it, nothing more." The officials exchanged uneasy glances. One whispered to another, then said aloud, "Even so, this will create unrest. The council may intervene." "Let them intervene," Ethan said firmly. "The law exists to protect the weak. That is exactly what I intend to do." The officials frowned, unsure how to respond. They were used to bending weaker species to their will, not standing against someone who refused to fear them. Meanwhile, Sayla waited anxiously in her quarters. She could hear the murmur of voices outside and the shadows of officials moving through the corridors. She paced in small circles, her mind racing. What if the human changed his mind? What if the council forced her into labor before they could act? She remembered the first time she had seen Ethan. He had noticed her courage during the fuel spill. He had treated her like a person, not a tool. That memory gave her strength. She reminded herself that humans were unpredictable. Perhaps, in this galaxy of rules and cruelty, a human could change things. The next day, Ethan and Sayla went to the registry office quietly. It was a small room with metal walls and a large window showing the stars beyond. A clerk sat behind a desk, scanning documents for legal compliance. Ethan spoke first. "We are here to register a marriage," he said. "She is my partner, and I request full legal recognition." The clerk blinked. "This is unusual, a human and a refugee alien. Are you aware of the rules?" "Yes," Ethan said. "We are aware. We are complying with the law." The clerk hesitated, then began typing. "Very well, but you must attend a formal hearing. The council will review your request. Other species may object. It may take days or weeks before approval." Sayla's hands trembled. "Days," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said softly, "but we will wait together." The day passed slowly, the tension growing. Aliens gathered in small groups to discuss the human's request. Some laughed at Sayla, saying no human would ever choose a refugee. Others were curious. Some watched carefully, hoping to learn what would happen next. Ethan, however, remained calm. He spent time with Sayla, teaching her how to present herself in front of the council, how to speak with confidence, and how to explain her situation clearly. For Sayla, it was the first time anyone had treated her as an equal. "You are stronger than you think," Ethan said gently. "Even the council will see that." Sayla shook her head. I have been weak my whole life. No one ever cared about me. Why do you? Ethan smiled faintly. Because it is right. And because humans, we value more than strength or wealth. We see people for who they are, not what they have. Her heart fluttered. She had never heard such words before. The warmth in her chest was strange and frightening, yet comforting. For the first time, she imagined a life beyond fear. The night before the hearing, Sayla could not sleep. She walked to the observation deck again, staring at the stars. The station's lights glimmered behind her, casting shadows across the metal floor. She thought of her people, scattered and lost. She thought of the humans who treated her as a person. And she thought of Ethan, who had taken her desperate plea seriously. A shadow moved nearby, and she tensed. But it was only another worker, tired and heading home. Still, the fear lingered. She whispered to herself, "Please let this work. I cannot lose him, or Hope will die." The next morning, the council representatives arrived. They were massive, alien, and imposing. Each member represented a different species, and each wore an expression of doubt or disdain. Their eyes scanned Sayla and Ethan, taking in the human and the refugee alien who dared to ask for equality. "Human," said the council leader, a four-armed alien with shimmering skin, "do you understand the consequences of your request? Many see this as inappropriate. They may question your judgment, your loyalty, and even your species' laws." Ethan met the leader's gaze without flinching. "I understand," he said calmly. "But the law exists to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is what I intend to do. My choice does not diminish anyone else's law or culture. It simply ensures fairness." Sayla stood beside him, trembling slightly. She could see the council's surprise at his words. Few had spoken with such calm conviction. Few had dared to challenge the system and demand justice for the weak. Whispers moved through the room as Sayla explained her life, her losses, and the danger she faced if no one protected her. She spoke with honesty, fear, and courage. She told the council of her people, scattered and weak, and how the law could save or destroy her. For a moment, the council members were silent. The whispers stopped. All eyes were on the human and the alien before them. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Ethan's presence gave her strength, and her words gave the council pause. The galaxy had rules, yes, but perhaps it had forgotten justice. As the hearing ended, the council promised to deliberate. Sayla and Ethan were left alone in the quiet room. "You did well," Ethan said softly. "No one has ever spoken like that before." Sayla shook her head. "I was scared. Every word felt like a step into a trap. And yet you spoke truth," Ethan replied. "That is why you are still here. That is why we still have hope." Sayla smiled faintly. For the first time in her life, she did not feel completely powerless. Outside, in the shadows, whispers grew into plans. Some aliens were pleased with her courage. Others were plotting against her. The council's final decision could come at any moment, and the station seemed to hold its breath. And so Sayla waited, trembling with fear, yet burning with hope. She had asked for help. She had placed her life in the hands of a human who saw value where others saw none. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and full of obstacles. But for the first time, she believed that freedom might be possible. The galaxy was watching. The council chamber was enormous, a circular room with walls of polished metal and glowing panels that displayed the insignias of dozens of alien species. At its center, a raised platform held the seats of the council members. Each of them was imposing, a living symbol of authority, power, and centuries of tradition. Sayla entered the chamber slowly, her hands trembling. She felt the weight of every eye upon her. Some glared with disdain. Others whispered quietly to one another. A few, however, looked with curiosity, their heads tilting as if trying to understand why a human would stand with a weak alien against the council itself. Ethan walked beside her, his steps calm and measured. Unlike Sayla, he did not shrink under the gaze of powerful beings. He had learned that strength came not from size or rank, but from courage, fairness, and conviction. The humans' history was full of challenges, and they had survived not because others thought they were strong, but because they refused to ignore injustice. The first council member to speak was a tall, four-armed alien with shimmering orange skin. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Human, you dare request marriage to a refugee alien? Do you understand the consequences? Your species will be judged. Our trade agreements may be reconsidered. Your actions are unprecedented." Ethan met his gaze steadily. "I understand the consequences," he said, "but I do not act for trade or politics. I act for justice. The law exists to protect the weak, not to humiliate them. Sayla is entitled to protection, and I will provide it. A murmur ran through the chamber. Many council members shifted in their seats. Some whispered to each other, clearly offended by his bold words. Others looked thoughtful. No one had ever spoken with such calm authority in the face of the council. The next speaker was a reptilian alien with scales the color of deep forest. Do you not fear the reaction of your species? The humans are young in this galaxy. Your union with her could bring shame. It is unnatural. Ethan's eyes flashed with quiet intensity. Shame is not mine to fear. I see Sailor as a person, not a symbol. Humans value courage, dignity, and honesty. Those are the measures by which I live, not species, not rank, not power. If that is unnatural in your eyes, then perhaps your eyes need to change. Some council members gasped, and whispers turned into shocked murmurs. Humans did not often speak like this to the council. They were young, yes, but they were also fearless in a way the galaxy did not understand. It was Sayla's turn to speak. She stepped forward, her voice shaking at first, but growing stronger with every word. I am Sayla, she said, and I am from the lost world of Virlia. My people were destroyed, scattered across the stars. We have no home, no allies. I have worked, I have suffered, I have begged for life. Now the law offers a chance to be protected, a chance to live. I ask for it. I ask because I cannot survive otherwise. And I ask for kindness, which has been rare in my life. Her words echoed through the chamber. Some aliens looked away, uncomfortable. Others listened, intrigued. She was small, weak, and poor, but her courage made the room shift in subtle ways. Humans had a strange strength. They saw worth where others saw nothing. The council did not respond immediately. They were not used to being confronted in this way. Discussion erupted among them in quiet whispers, their long tongues flicking, their claws tapping the metal table. Some called for rejection. Others argued that the law could not deny a human's request. One elder alien, a tall being with feathers that shimmered like the night sky, leaned forward. Human, he said softly, do you realize that your actions could create unrest? Other species may see this as an affront. They may challenge the law itself. Do you intend to risk conflict for this, alien? Ethan's expression did not change. I am aware, he said, but justice is never without risk. If rules exist to protect the weak, then it is our duty to follow them. I do not act for myself, nor for glory. I act for Sayla and for fairness. That is what humans do when they see injustice. A moment of silence followed. The council members studied him, some with curiosity, some with suspicion. They were not used to such calm certainty, such clear principle in the face of potential political chaos. Then a new voice spoke. It was a young alien, a delegate from a minor species. Perhaps the human sees something we have forgotten. Perhaps the value of a person is not measured by strength or wealth, but by courage and dignity. I support the Union. The room went quiet again. A few others nodded slowly. The whispers continued, but now some voices leaned toward understanding, not just scorn. The tide was shifting slowly. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, rumors spread like wildfire. Aliens who had mocked Sayla and Ethan began to murmur with uncertainty. The station buzzed with debate. The young human who refused to fear the council was changing minds simply by standing his ground. Back inside, the council began to ask questions. They wanted to know if Sayla understood the responsibilities of marriage, if Ethan could provide for her, and if either of them would honor the laws of the galaxy. Sayla answered honestly, her voice steady. I understand. I know this is not simple. I know it is risky. But I also know that I cannot survive otherwise, and I will honor any responsibility asked of me. Ethan spoke next. I will treat her as an equal. I will protect her, and I will ensure that this marriage does not harm the station, the law, or any other being. I act because it is right. The council deliberated for hours. Aliens argued, shouted, and even insulted one another in private. But every time, Ethan's calm presence reminded them of a truth they had ignored for centuries. The weak deserved protection, and courage and fairness were stronger than rank or tradition. During the recess, Sayla and Ethan walked together along a high balcony that overlooked the lower levels of the station. The city lights blinked like stars below them. You are amazing, Sayla whispered. I have never met anyone like you. Why do you care? Ethan glanced at her, a small smile playing at his lips. Because it is the right thing to do. Humans, we survive because we value people, not power. I see the courage in you, Sayla. That is worth protecting. She felt warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she felt more than just hope, she felt pride. She was not just a weak alien asking for help. She was someone worth seeing, worth fighting for. The hearing resumed, and the council began to test them further. They brought up ancient laws, potential conflicts, and the opinions of other species. Some tried to intimidate Ethan with stories of human weakness. Others tried to pressure Sayla into withdrawing, but Ethan remained unshaken. If the law exists to protect the weak, then that law must be applied. I will not back down because others are afraid to act justly. Humans do not fear fairness. That is our strength. Sayla's voice grew stronger too. I will not be silent. I have lived in fear long enough. I will speak truth, even if it angers others. I have nothing left to lose, but I have hope to gain. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Some were impressed. Others were angry, but no one could deny that the courage of the human and the alien demanded consideration. Hours turned into a day, and the council finally recessed. We will vote soon, the chamber leader said. Prepare yourselves. Your request has shaken the tradition of this station. The outcome is uncertain. As Sayla and Ethan left the chamber, whispers followed them. Some were supportive, others plotted, but one thing was clear: the galaxy had begun to notice that humans did not measure worth the same way as other species. Back in her quarters, Sayla sat alone, staring at the metal floor. Will they approve? She whispered to herself. Ethan sat beside her quietly. We cannot control everything, he said gently, but we can stand for what is right. That is already a victory. Outside, shadows shifted. Those who thrived on cruelty and hierarchy had begun to take notice. They would not accept this easily. But the first seeds of change had been planted. For the first time in her life, Sayla dared to imagine a future where she was not powerless. And the galaxy, watching quietly, wondered if perhaps humans were more than just a young species. They were a force that could change the rules, not by violence but by principle. The next day would bring the council vote. The station held its breath. And Sayla knew one thing for certain: whatever happened, she would not face it alone. The council chamber was silent except for the low hum of the energy panels. Today, the vote would happen. The enormous circular room was packed, the walls lined with officials, observers, and representatives from dozens of alien species. Many had come to witness the unprecedented event: a human and a weak alien seeking marriage, challenging centuries of tradition. Sayla's hands trembled as she clutched Ethan's arm. Her heart pounded in her chest. Do you think they will approve? She whispered. Ethan gave her a small, calm smile. We do not control them, he said quietly. But we do control ourselves. We speak truth. We show courage. That is what humans do, and sometimes that is enough. Some aliens in the audience sneered. Others whispered doubts, convinced the council would reject them outright. But the humans' courage and the aliens' honesty had already made waves. The galaxy was watching. The council leader, the four-armed alien with shimmering orange skin, banged his clawed hands on the podium. Order! The vote shall commence. Each member will speak before casting their decision. Let it be known, precedent and law guide us, yet we shall hear the arguments of both human and alien. Ethan and Sayla stepped forward. Sayla's voice was steady now, no longer trembling. I have nothing but honesty to offer, she said. I am small and weak. I have suffered because of the law and because others ignored me. I ask only for protection and a chance to live. If I am denied, my life will be destroyed. If I am allowed, I can live with dignity. Ethan followed. I have been asked to protect her, he said, his voice calm but firm. Some may see this as unusual, others may call it reckless. I see it as right. Humans value fairness and courage. We do not measure worth by strength, by wealth, or by rank. We measure worth by character. And Sayla has courage beyond most. I will honor the law, respect this station, and do my duty, nothing more, nothing less. Whispers swept across the chamber. Some delegates were shocked. Others began to reconsider their assumptions. This was not arrogance or naivety, it was principle. Humans did not bow to fear. The council deliberated. One by one, members voiced their opinions. Many were hostile. It is dangerous, said a lizard-like member. It breaks tradition, it risks trade relations. Ethan listened calmly, nodding slightly. When another member, a massive insectoid, hissed that human customs were unknown and unreliable, he spoke. Unknown does not mean wrong. Just because a system is different does not mean it is invalid. Sayla's safety is clear. That is what matters. Do you value tradition more than justice? A pause fell over the chamber. Some delegates did not know how to respond. Justice, in its purest form, had rarely been spoken aloud in centuries of politics. Then the vote began. One by one, each member pressed their voting claw to the panel. Reject or approve? As the numbers appeared on the display, tension gripped the chamber. Many had expected a swift rejection. Instead, the vote was almost evenly split. Shock rippled through the audience. 32 approve, 31 reject, the display read. A murmur of disbelief spread. The chamber leader banged his hands again. This is extraordinary, he said. The vote has passed by one. The human and the alien may proceed with registration. Sayla gasped. Ethan placed a steady hand on her shoulder. It is done, he said softly. You are safe. Outside the chamber, chaos erupted. Some aliens cheered quietly, others cursed openly. A few powerful traitors whispered threats. But the message was clear. Humans did not follow the old rules. They made their own way, and it often worked. Sayla's relief was immense, but she was not naive. They will not forget this, she whispered. Some will try to undo it. Some will resent me for daring to ask. Ethan nodded. True, the galaxy does not change overnight, but this is the first step, and sometimes first steps are the hardest. Back in the lower levels of the station, whispers turned into action. Aliens who had opposed them plotted quietly, seeking ways to challenge the Union. Traitors who had expected to exploit her saw their plans blocked. And Sayla's people, scattered across different sectors, heard the news for the first time. One of their own was protected, recognized, and free. The next day, the council issued the formal decree. Sayla's status changed immediately. She was no longer a weak, powerless refugee. She had rights, protection, and a recognized place in society. Her people celebrated quietly across distant systems, unsure how long the change would last, but hopeful nonetheless. But danger was not gone. Some officials and traitors were angry. They saw humans as young and reckless, undeserving of authority. Ethan knew this. He had to act carefully. He devised a plan to secure their position permanently. Using his engineering skills, he built a network of protections around Sayla, making it difficult for anyone to interfere with her legal status. He recorded transactions, gathered witnesses, and created undeniable proof that the council's decision was valid. Humans often win with preparation, he said, explaining his work to Sayla. We do not rely on fear or force. We rely on foresight, logic, and fairness. Sayla watched him work, amazed. She had never seen such calm, methodical intelligence. It is incredible, she said. You are nothing like anyone I have met. Ethan smiled faintly. Humans survive because we think and because we act when it is right. That is why the galaxy underestimates us. They see strength in muscle, not mind. They see power in status, not principle. That is their weakness, and sometimes it is ours to use for good. Over the following days, more aliens began to approach them. Some apologized quietly for their previous mockery. Others sought alliances, hoping to understand the human approach. Humans were unpredictable but fair. They did not cheat or exploit, at least not openly. They valued truth. And in a galaxy built on fear and hierarchy, that was revolutionary. Sayla and Ethan used this attention wisely. They met with representatives, shared their story, and encouraged others to reconsider how they treated the weak. Slowly, the tide shifted. Aliens who had been cruel began to see value in fairness. Some even sought protection for their own vulnerable kin, inspired by Sayla's courage and Ethan's steadfastness. The station itself began to change. Policies that had favored only the powerful were quietly revised. New rules were established to prevent abuse. The weak, the powerless, and the refugee species began to find a voice. And at the center of it all were two individuals, a human who refused to bow to fear and an alien who dared to ask for help. Sayla no longer trembled at the sight of the council. She no longer feared whispers in the corridors. She had found her voice, and she had found someone who believed in her. One evening, standing on the observation deck, she looked at the stars and whispered, "We did it! We really did it!" Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. Not alone. Humans can change the galaxy, yes, but we do not act without courage. You were brave, too. Without you speaking your truth, nothing would have happened. Sayla smiled faintly, feeling warmth and pride swell in her chest. For the first time, she felt not like a victim, but like a force in the galaxy. But as the sun-like stars of the station's orbit reflected across the metal floors, shadows lingered. Some aliens had not forgotten. Some powerful traders and council members waited for a chance to strike back. Ethan knew it. He had calculated every step, every risk. "The battle is never truly over," he said softly. "But victory is ours today. We will protect this and we will endure." Sayla nodded. She finally understood a truth humans seemed to know instinctively. Strength was not always about size, speed, or weapons. It was about principle, courage, and the willingness to stand for what was right, even when the odds were against you. Together, they walked back toward the station's heart, ready to face whatever came next. And somewhere in the shadows of the crowded halls, enemies plotted, but they underestimated one thing. Humans did not see the galaxy as others did. They saw opportunity, fairness, and courage, and sometimes that was more dangerous than any weapon. For Sayla, for her people, and for every weak alien who had been ignored for centuries, hope had arrived, and it was carried on the shoulders of a human.